Welcome to Buddhist Services. Today is Wednesday, June the 23rd, 2021. I'm Miss Shepherd and happy to be here. I'm here with my friend, Miss Ross. I'll let her say hello.
Hi, thanks, Miss Shepherd. I'm grateful to be able to be with you all once again. Looking forward to seeing my friends at New Lisbon in person soon. But meanwhile, just really appreciating the ability to make these recordings and connect with you all in this way, as we haven't been able to meet in person. But we continue to think of you, and that's why we keep doing these recordings. So back to you, Miss Shepherd.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll run the service as we normally do. I'll light the candles. We'll do a brief chant. We'll then do a meditation. Miss Ross is going to guide the first one. I'll do the second one. And then we'll have a conversation on a topic. So I will go and light the candles. Now let us chant the reflection on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs.
So with the fading of the chanting, the fading of the bell, we come into a meditation period. So we're coming inward to reflect on the mind, the actions of the mind, to get to know ourselves better. And so we come into this quiet space and we can set our intention. And in this period, I would suggest that we just set the intention to be present with the sensation of the body breathing as an object for the mind to pay attention to. And then we'll notice what the mind does from that intention. So we'll begin by coming into the body. So taking our meditation seat, And we can either do this sitting, standing, or lying down. But we want to feel grounded, whatever posture we're taking, just feeling the groundedness, the support for our body. And from that support, we can feel the spine rising up. So we want to keep the spine alert, which keeps the mind alert. So there's this groundedness, this uprightness of the spine, but also a sense of relaxation. So finding that balance in those 3 points: groundedness, uprightness, relaxation. And the eyes can be open or closed, whatever you prefer, but if you have them open, just a soft gaze. And bringing the mind inward, to be feeling the mind resting in this body, just as the body is resting on its support. The body is like this. The mind and knowing the body is like this. You can notice any sensations in the body, just how it is right now. Is there any place of tension, or does the body feel relaxed? Not trying to change it, just noticing how it is right now. And maybe noticing as we are paying attention to how the body is, maybe it actually is changing. You might feel a shifting, a relaxation, or we might feel tension. Just noticing how it is. The body is like this. And how is the mind? Maybe the mind is still thinking about other things, about what you did this morning or what you're going to do later on today. Or maybe it has come inward and start to fall asleep in this quiet. Just what's the mind doing? Can we create some curiosity in the mind? What's happening right here, right now? How is the body? And we can notice the sensation of the body breathing as our object of meditation. So the mind intends to watch the body breathing. Breathing in is like this. Breathing out is like this. Setting the intention to stay observing the body breathing, knowing breathing in is like this, breathing out is like this. And we can notice where the mind is. Is it still watching the body breathing, or is it gone off thinking, planning, daydreaming, gone to sleep? Not judging it, just noticing where it went. Noticing the effect on the mind, whether it's still at ease or if it's got some tension in it, and how the body is. And then resetting our intention for the mind to pay attention to the body breathing. Breathing in is like this. Breathing out is like this. Checking in to notice where the mind is, what it's paying attention to, how the mind is, how the body is. Not judging, just noticing how it is. And then resetting our intention to pay attention. Breathing in is like this, breathing out is like this. Where is the mind? How is the mind? How is the body? By checking in this way, we can notice in our meditation what the habits of the mind are. If the mind tends to go off in certain directions because of its habits, despite our intention. And it's not something to judge, it's just something to observe. And we observe the effect on the mind and on the body. And we can train by resetting our attention back to our meditation object, breathing in, breathing out. But by this observation of cause and effect, seeing the mind's habits, we can better understand ourselves. And through bringing it back to a calm meditation object, can train the mind to learn to be more calm and focused. This is our practice. We can slowly bring our awareness back to the overall sense of the body. Sense of being present in a room, maybe opening the eyes, and just checking in to see how the mind and the body are now compared to how they were before the meditation. Not judging, just noticing the effect. And then letting that go and coming back to Miss Shepherd and me.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. So the information we have is that many of the institutions are opening, which is wonderful news. We are so happy for you. We think that's very good news that volunteers will be coming back. Hopefully visitors will be coming back. Programs will be coming back. School classes, I hope we'll get established. So that's all great news. And that also means that this will be the last video that we make to send to you for actually several reasons. So Ms. Ross will be beginning to run the Buddhist Service and mindfulness programs at New Lisbon. At the other institutions I go to, other people will be doing so. I will not be coming back in person. I have decided that driving 3 hours for a 1 hour session was just more than I'm willing to do anymore. That much driving every week was getting to me. So I, unfortunately, sadly, regretfully, will not be coming back in person. But I have made arrangements so that the services will continue. Wonderful other people like Ms. Ross and other people at the other institutions will be taking over Buddhist services. So there will still be Buddhist services, is my understanding. You'll need to be watching your bulletin boards or your announcements to find out when they begin and what days and times they'll be. But my understanding is that they will be continuing likely on the same day and time as they were previously. So that's quite a big change for me, and I will definitely miss it. I will miss seeing all of you in person, hearing how you proceeded through the pandemic and this long period of without contact. So that's a loss for me, and I'm sorry about it. But I've been very glad to be able to at least connect in this way over these more than months, years. And hopefully it has been of help. It's certainly been of benefit for me. I've been really glad to do it. But given that this is our last recording, in thinking about what I might talk about, I decided to talk about something that's a little more, academic isn't quite the right word, but more conceptual maybe. We say over and over, and it is absolutely true, that the point of this practice is not to memorize any of the lists or to be able to spout off what they are or any of that. The point is to pay attention and read our own heart and mind, to learn to turn inward, to be aware of what's happening, to notice where the mind goes, how it's going, how it's reacting, and to bring some wisdom and mindfulness to those reactions so that they aren't just automatic and outside of what we would wish to happen. And that absolutely is the practice. And it's also true that the Buddha gave hundreds and hundreds of so useful teachings. And sometimes having a sense of this conceptual framework that he established can be really helpful. And so I thought I'd talk about one of these frameworks as the last session today, because it is something that I think is often misunderstood. So what I want to talk about is this teaching on kamma, often called karma, which is the Sanskrit word, and in the West, that seems to be the word that's most often used. In Pali, same word is kamma rather than karma. But this understanding of kamma in the West is often misunderstood. It's misrepresented. That I think because it's used a lot in popular culture, and, on TV shows and all over the place, people talk about my karma. But karma isn't really a thing that is consistent and that you carry around with you in that way that the West talks about it. And it's certainly not sort of fatalistic or predestined the way the West talks about it. So kamma simply means action with intention. So in our chant, we talked about all actions with intention, whether skillful or harmful. Of that we will be the heirs. What that means is that the actions we perform, whether of body, speech, or mind, any of the actions that occur in this mind-body system have consequences. Again, that's a fundamental teaching of the Buddha, is that all actions have results. Things don't happen spontaneously. They occur because of prior actions. And so paying attention to our own intentional actions is so important. That's why we focus on it over and over again. However, it's also so important to realize that the whole world isn't based on our actions, that there are many other things that also influence what happens and how it happens. And so the way this is explained in the Buddhist teachings is that actions with intention, kamma, are one kind of natural law, a natural law that says actions through my own body, speech, or mind have results. But there are many other things that also have results that are outside of my power. And that's what's often forgotten when people talk about kamma. So for the Buddha, he identified, actually, the commentaries on the Buddha's teachings identified 5 natural laws. I'm holding up my hand, 5 natural laws that shape our experience, shape the world. So I want to share with you what those 5 are, because when I do that, you'll see that really only one, kamma, is based on what I do. So first, let's go through them and then we can talk more. So the first one is utu niyama. The natural law is called a niyama. And utu niyama is the law of energy, or the law of physics, or the law of biology. It's actually not biology, but physical laws. So these are things like the weather and seasons, and the fact that water and soil and plants interact in patterned ways based on natural laws. The fact that lotus blossoms open during the day and close at night. That's a law that's based on their physical makeup and a law of nature. That's how it works. So the point here is that you don't control those things, right? So it's not because of your kamma that it rains. It's not because of your own actions that it's cold one day and hot the next. So again, to realize that's completely outside of your control. That is a natural law. Those are things that will happen based on the laws of physics and the physical environment. So that's the first natural law. The second natural law is a bija niyama. Those are the laws of genetics, of heredity, of reproduction. Those are biological laws. For example, the fact that when you plant a tomato plant, it produces tomatoes. It doesn't produce cucumbers. That's a natural law. It's nothing you can do about that. That's the way nature works. And again, so when you plant a tomato plant, it's not up to you what it produces. It's up to the law of nature. What is up to you is whether it gets enough water, whether it's planted in a place where it gets sufficient sun, whether you plant it in gravel or you plant it in soil, whether you maybe provide it some fertilizer. But the fact that it grows, the fact that it produces leaves, those are all outside of your control. That's the natural law, the natural biological law, not up to you. So that's the second natural law. The third natural law, chitta niyama, is the law of psychology, the laws of nature pertaining to the functioning of the mind. So this one, again, it sounds like, well, maybe that's up to me. In fact, it's not. This is the law that says when light hits the eye is able to perceive. If things are seen. It's not about what I name that. It's just about the fact of perception. I don't control that. When the hand touches, it feels, there's perception there. It feels something. What I name that perception or how I identify it, that's up to me. But the fact of just a body having sensation, that's a natural law. I have some notes here. I'm just looking if there's another example that might be helpful. Oh, no, like thinking about sleep, that minds need sleep, that minds get tired. These are biological laws as well as psychological laws. These are not up to us. So that's the third one, the laws of how the mind operates, that it receives in information, that all the sense stores do that. The sense store receives contact and I don't control whether it does that or not. It just does. When there's a sound, my ear hears it. There's hearing happens. Those are the laws of the chitta, the mind, and the body. Those actually combine as several, actually, my example. One of the characteristics we'll talk about is that these laws are mutually interacting all the time. That it's not that one law is in charge, that they're always co-occurring. But it's important to identify that some things happening are based on natural law, completely outside our control, and some are within our control. So the fourth law is the one that is within our control, and that's kamma niyama. That is the law of kamma. And it is the laws, the natural law pertaining to human behavior, pertaining to what we do. And so this is the law that pertains to intention, that says that when we set an intention, we will get consequences from that intention. And of course, the most frequently cited one is that actions based on kindness, on clarity, on wisdom, on clear attention and understanding lead to good results. Actions based on greed, hatred, and ignorance, on non-understanding, lead to bad results. So that's the law of kamma. That's what we control. All of these others, these other three laws that I mentioned, the law of physics, the law of biology, the law of how the mind actually operates, those are not within our control. So one of the problems with the understanding of kamma is that people think everything that happens is because of them. Just kind of a very self-centered way of viewing the world. But, so for example, when a child is born with a club foot, it is not, because of something the mother did or the father did or the child did. It is a law of biology. Sometimes babies, as they're growing, it's incredibly amazing that babies can grow at all. Sometimes they grow in different ways. That's a law. That's bija niyama. That's a biological law. So this idea that, everything we see is a consequence of people's good or bad actions, it's really a misunderstanding of what the Buddha said. And I think it can lead us down some very dark and unkind, actually, ways of viewing the world and viewing other people. So the fifth law is dhamma niyama. And this is kind of like an overarching law that actually encompasses all of the other four, which is fundamentally the law of cause and effect, saying that in each of these laws, what's operating is that something has happened that brings about something else. So in some cases, that's something based on the laws of physics. Sometimes it's based on the laws of biology. Sometimes it's based on the laws of the mind. And sometimes it's based on kamma, the laws of intention. So this dhamma niyama, the fifth one, is really the fundamental teaching of the Buddha. It's the overarching understanding of how the world operates. It says that when things arise, they are present for a while and then they end, right? The law of impermanence, the law of change, that law that everything is arising, sustaining for a bit and ceasing. That humans, trees, mountains, everything, rivers, oceans, all of it are born, age, and change, reconform. That is the natural order. And this dhamma niyama, the overarching law, is the law of the natural order. It speaks to the causal nature of everything in the world. But just because everything has a causal nature doesn't mean we are responsible for those causes. And that is sometimes the misunderstanding that people bring to kamma. So the reason I decided to share these 5 is to hopefully help people understand that there are some things that we are responsible for and that we do want to learn to pay attention to. And that's the kamma niyama piece, our intentions. Intentions, actions with intention, actions of body, actions of speech, actions within the mind, thoughts. Those are within our control. Those we can bring intention to. We can bring useful, skillful, kind, generous intention to them, or we can bring intentions based on greed, on ill will, on not understanding, on ignorance. But those other things, not so. So don't get all tied up thinking, oh, that's my kamma, that, I wanted to have a nice day today and it rained. Oh, it's because I did something bad yesterday. No, that's because that's how the weather operates. That's the physical world. That's the utu niyama. That's what happens in the natural world. But also what these laws help us notice is how they are all mutually interacting. That was when I was giving examples, I was getting caught that way, because there are times, actually most times, when actually they do interact, when part of what's happening is based on kamma, is based on the intention I'm bringing. Part of what's happening is based on the nature of the mind. Part of what's happening is based on biological nature. Part of what's happening is based on physical laws, that they all interact. And I think the gardening example is probably one of the best, that a plant will grow, and it will grow what it's supposed to grow. But if we are planting it as a garden, then our intention also has an impact, because if we want to get those results, are going to need to make sure there's water, make sure there's sunlight, make sure the soil is appropriate for the kind of plant. So it demonstrates the mutualness of these laws, that they all operate together. And it's really important to recognize the limits of our intention. So understanding kamma is so key for our practice, because it asks us to continually investigate what really and truly is our intention in this moment. What is it that we are trying to bring forth? Or have we even considered what we might be bringing forth from our action of body, speech, or mind? Or are we just sort of acting without any thought at all? Which, of course, in effect, is acting with intention, and intention not to pay attention, which is an unskillful intention. So knowing that everything we do has a consequence. So we can either bring to it intentional attention, or we can ignore our intention, but know that whether we've paid attention or not, there will be a consequence to what we do. And if we are on this path and wishing to have better results for ourselves as well as for other people, then bringing clear intention to every act really matters. To notice how we are when we interact with our cellie, with the officers, with the person feeding, hopefully soon you'll be maybe going back into the day rooms and being able to get your meals rather than getting them on trays. Maybe even that's happening already. I hope it might be. But, how am I interacting with the person that's behind the service line offering me food? That makes a difference. Makes a difference to your own heart, makes a difference to the heart of the person you're interacting with. So maybe I want to take a rest there, think what else I might want to add. I'll give Miss Ross a chance to comment on this teaching of kamma, this often misunderstood teaching.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Shepherd. And we could talk about this all day. It's such an interesting topic. And I'm really glad that you brought this up because, the whole Westernization of the idea of karma, like it's your karma, that this happened. Remember people talking about people in Haiti getting 2 hurricanes. Well, it's their societal karma, they're just bad people, and it's like, sorry, not buying that, it's a natural phenomenon. So all of those kinds of things, it's really important that we understand it, especially, as part of our practice, that we're clear about this, that it does mean intentional action, and that you can have the intention to not pay attention and just let your old habits take over, which is what most of the world does. But we're setting an intention to actually pay attention. And that meditation that I led at the beginning was, that's the kind of practice, like we can just notice, where does our mind want to go and what is the effect? And so we can directly observe cause and effect, and then we can choose. And there's a quote that I don't know how many times I've said this in these sessions, but the Viktor Frankl quote about, between stimulus, which is all those worldly karmas, right? It's the physical, the biology, even societal kamma, that whatever comes in, whatever our mind-body complex receives, between that stimulus and what our response or what our action is, what our next kammic action is, there is a space. So between the receiving of it and then us acting, there's a space. And in that space lies our ability to choose how we're going to act. And in that choice lies the opportunity for our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl said that. And it's like the wisest summation of Buddhism I think I've heard from a non-Buddhist. This was a German Jew. So he got it nailed, that so whatever these other worldly kammas are that are coming our way, there's a space there, and we can, with our intention, we can choose in that space what our next action is going to be. And then we can see what the effect is of that. And then in our next action, we can say, are we going to keep doing that, or are we going to change course again? Like it's a moment by moment watching of cause and effect. And some people say, well, this feels really heavy, like it's like a heavy responsibility, but all I do is think of all the times when I didn't pay attention and I just acted out of habit, and the trouble I got into, and then I had to undo all that trouble. It's like this moment by moment, and treating it with curiosity, like, oh, what's going to happen next? Like, so rather than having it feel heavy, just go like, oh, what's happening now? Oh, it's this. What might be a skillful response, and if we practice this enough in our meditation and practice it consciously in our life, then it doesn't become a heavy burden or responsibility. It becomes our new habit. The habit is just to pay attention rather than being lost in our old behaviors that were not necessarily helpful. So we can intentionally choose these more positive kammic actions like kindness and generosity and non-harming. We can choose those intentionally until they become our new habits. And then then it becomes more and more easeful. At least that's been my experience. So initially it felt really heavy to me, like, oh God, I am responsible for all my decisions, like, oh, all my intentions. But then I looked back at what the effect was when I didn't pay attention. I'm like, well, this is not so bad, because there was a lot of suffering that came from not paying attention. So this is our practice. And, I'm just really grateful for these wise teachers, whether it's the Buddha or whether it's Viktor Frankl, these people that could see this cause and effect and be able to state it in such a clear way that we can understand it, and we can be inspired then to know that we're not just getting pushed around by the world. We can maybe not choose what comes at us, but we can choose what our response is to that, and hopefully not create more suffering for ourselves and for others. So that's my thoughts.
Absolutely, yeah. Rather than it being heavy, it's an amazing opportunity. Sometimes people say that Buddhism is pessimistic. In fact, it's incredibly optimistic. It totally says we have the choice, that we do have power, but we have to know what it is we have power over, which is only our own intentions, our own actions of body, speech, and mind. That's where we can make the difference. But that's also where all of the suffering happens. So to remember that, well, if that's where the suffering happens, and that's also where we have the power, that's amazing. That's a wonderful opportunity. So it's not that it's heavy, it's that, wow, thank goodness, this is great. So I have
as Ajahn Sucitto says, train your mind or the world will train it for you. So we get the control, through our intentions, we have control.
So here's an example of how these laws interact. I think that can be helpful to help disentangle what we often think is, like Mr. Ross was saying, blaming a natural disaster on people. That's not a good idea. It's incredibly lacking compassion. So he says someone may be sweating due to physical laws, right? That's why you sweat, because it's hot, the body sweats. Because it's hot, or maybe during psychological and karmic laws, because one is afraid or recalls doing something wrong, right? That can also cause sweating. So we don't necessarily know what the cause of the sweating is. It can be either from what's happening in our hearts that we could then calm, or just because of that it's hot. One may have a headache due to physical laws, say from muggy weather, a stuffy room, or lack of oxygen, or due to biological laws, to some problem in what's occurring in the body, or due to a combination of karmic laws, our intention. Maybe we've just become so tense that our whole body, our body is tightened up, and it's caused a headache from anxiety and distress. So these things are always interacting. But when a phenomenon occurs, when we experience some form of affliction, don't presume that it's solely because of kamma. Make sure you also attend, well, what are the natural, physical, biological, either or mental laws that are also operating? But to remember, as Ms. Ross says, although there are these 5 natural laws, the most important one for us as humans is the law of kamma niyama, because that is the one where we have control. That is the one that is specifically within the realm of our management, of our attention. And that's why we attend to it, because it's the one that we can manage. So when it rains or doesn't rain, as has been the case here, and my garden and trees have been incredibly stressed and it's awful to see, that's outside of my control. But how distressed or angry or ill will I get towards the weather, that's within my control. That's the kamma. So can I bring Can I notice what the intention is that's arising within my own heart around the rain? And can I notice when it's irritation or anger or frustration versus goodwill, considering what I might do? Can I water the trees that I have around here at least to help them? I can't water every tree in the city, but I can maybe water the ones on my own boulevard. So the importance of kamma is really huge, but not as huge as the West often makes it. And so to not let yourself get caught into that misunderstanding of it, which actually leads us down very dark and unhelpful paths, but instead to understand how using our mindfulness, using our meditation practice to become more connected to our own body and mind is what brings consequences of more benefit. It's not the only thing that brings consequences, so we can't be sure what the results will be, but we can know that we've done what we can do. So it's not that our intentions, well, maybe I'll leave it at that. Never mind. We can't count on our intentions having the results we want because there are other factors. That's the problem. We're not the only thing in the world, but they can have the results we want for us. We can know what those intentions do in our own hearts and minds, even if it isn't received outside, by the other person or by the world in the way we would hope. So all actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of those acts, we will be the heirs. So it's up to us to determine, well, what is skillful? What is harmful? And to, moment by moment, as Ms. Ross said, continually reassess. Okay, what happened last time? What am I going to do this time? How did that bring me? What was the consequence? What was the result? Do I know? Maybe I don't know. If I don't know, then we maybe try again. So it's not that this makes us all knowing, but it makes us pay attention. And in paying attention, we are much more likely to get the results that we're after. So let's end with a brief meditation. So gently settling into the body. Connecting to the breath. And noticing what the intention might be in this very moment. Really deciding for yourself what intention would be of most benefit to yourself and to others. Maybe it's an intention just to sit quietly for these few moments. Maybe it's an intention to be more curious about the breath and the bodily sensations occurring. Maybe it's an intention to let the attention be as consistently with the breathing as possible. And to return to attending to the breathing anytime the attention wanders. Maybe it's an intention just to bring some kindness to this heart and mind in these moments. But some sort of intention actually is always present. And so the practice is encouraging us to take the time to notice what that intention may be. And then to give ourselves the opportunity to refine it or shift it if we find it is not of use. It wouldn't lead to what we hope for ourselves. So what is the intention in this very moment? What are the actions of body, speech, or mind that would support that intention? And what that intention may be is completely up to you. Buddha is not some overlord telling us what intention to have. He's helping us refine our attention to notice which intentions are more helpful, which ones are not. Again, up to us. What are the intentions that help the heart open, lighten, feel more at ease? Can we begin to know what those are and practice them more often? For me, it's intentions to be kinder, to be not critical or less critical, to not always be comparing or measuring, to smile, to be of help and service to myself or others. Those are the intentions for me that help my body relax, my heart open. So in meditation, I can notice what intention is present. Is it one that is of help? Might I cultivate an intention that would feel more easeful, more joyful? less anxious. And then our practice is to keep noticing the body, because the body can give us cues, clues to what's happening in the heart and the mind. As we notice changes in the body, in the breath, in the posture, in the activity level of thinking, we can reassess. Has the intention shifted? Maybe initially the intention was to settle, relax, quiet. Maybe the activity in the mind has shifted the intention to now plan, remember, go into the future. Get agitated. So then we bring back the intention. Oh, those things aren't really consistent with an intention to be here, to be at ease. So we recultivate the intention for ease. So, of course, one of the other major teachings of the Buddha has to do with change and transition. And so for me, this is a big transition to not be coming to visit the prisons any longer. I likely will be still going to just one that's much closer. But it's hard to do that, to recognize this change, to notice this actually will be quite a big change in my life and how things happen for me during the weeks, and that I will miss it, and that I have really benefited from meeting so many of you there and from learning from you and growing with you, I hope. So thank you for all that you've offered to me over these years. So I think it's probably time for us to dedicate the merit. Ms. Ross, anything else you want to?
No, just wishing you all well and hoping, that you can take this discussion about kamma today and just, just see how it lands in your life. And hopefully something in here was a benefit to you. And just looking forward to this transition for me to, to be able to see my friends at New Lisbon again and other institutions again. So just really grateful, and grateful for this time with Miss Shepherd in these sessions, and really have enjoyed being with her. So just thank you so much.
So may the merit of our practice support and nourish all of us. May we feel inner wealth so that we can practice the joy of giving. May we always offer goodwill to others and to ourselves. May we see our own limits with compassion as we offer compassion to others. May our practice train the heart in clarity, kindness, and wisdom. And may all beings, not one left out, be well, be safe, and be free from suffering. So indeed, my thanks to Miss Ross for all of the work she's done over these months and her willingness to always be here together, and all she has offered in terms of the teachings. It's been a great joy and benefit to me as well. So thank you, Ms. Ross. I'm thrilled that she will be continuing at New Lisbon. So be well, everybody. Have fun in the opening. I'm so glad that things will be opening up more. I'm hopeful that's the case, and that you've all made it through the pandemic, and hopefully the rest of 2021 and 2022 will be much better for you all. So be well.
Yeah, take care, everybody.